Good evening, everybody. I'm gonna make this very short video for those who requested for it. I hope you can watch it as many times as possible so that you can understand the whole thing. All right. I'm still available for consultation on Wednesday from 9 a.m. in the morning. I'll be in the office. Again, this is given to you as an assignment. I'm just going to explain a part of it. Then you can continue with the rest. All right. On how to extract information from your case study and how to find your ratings. All right. Let's say in our first paragraph here, you have read everything, you have understood the whole scenario of what's happening, of what the person is doing, or the company is doing. Then you come here to the last part of our first paragraph. Due to some reserved reason, a time elapsed before starting of 1 minute was recorded. The study began at 8:20, and the following results were recorded in second. So you already have the information here that whatever result or whatever number you're gonna see in this case study, they were recorded in second. So you are working with second. So even if you are given somewhere down there some data that is in minute, you know you have to convert it into second first. All right. Then we have our first here. She takes the plug base and put it into a jig on the table with an observation time of 60, 60, 55, and 50. These numbers that are given to you, remember, they are your observation time, which is the OT. It may be stated or it may not be stated, but you should know these are your observation time. And you need to find your rating, you need to find your basic time. By now, we all know how to find or how to get your basic time. 60, 60, 55, and 50. These are the first element in all of our cycles. And from here, we can determine that we have 4 cycles. But before determining that, let's just carry on with our activity. 60 goes into the first element of our first cycle, and the 60 goes into the first element of our second cycle. 55 goes into the first element in our third cycle, and 50 goes into the first element in our fourth cycle. She takes brass pins from a box and inserts it into the 2 holes marked N and L, again, which are our observation time: 90, 75, 85, 50, and 70. Which again, 90 goes into the second element in our second cycle, 75 second element second cycle, 85 second element third cycle, 50 second element third cycle, and 70 second element fourth cycle. She picks up the third pin and inserts it into the hole marked E with an observation time, and you do the same thing. These are our third element in all of our fourth cycle. After you've read everything, you notice that when she has done 4 plugs, she puts them into a carton and seals it. She has done 4 plugs, 4 cycles, and then she puts them and seals them when in our fourth cycle or in our fourth plug, and it has a 90 as an observation time. She did it only once at the end of our cycles or at the end of her pluggings, which happened at last in our fourth cycle, which makes it normally the ninth element. So we have 1, we have 2, we have 3, we have 4, we have 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. We have in total 9 elements. But in our fourth cycle, that's where the ninth element only appears. Right. Then this in green here, as I said, this is what is happening here. 60, 60 in our first and second cycle, 55 in our third cycle, and lastly 50 in our fourth cycle. And as I explained earlier, 90 happened in our fourth cycle when she's done with everything and put everything in a carton and it took her 90 seconds for her to do that. We have 9 elements in our life cycle, but in all the other cycle, we only have 8 elements. I hope we are clear on that. All right. Sometimes, if something like in our activity 2, it should be precise that a certain element only happened in cycle 1 and cycle 3, for example, or it may happen only in cycle 4 and cycle 6. Just read your case study very carefully before attempting to answer it. Now, how do we get our rating? To get the rating of our first element in all of our cycle, we find the average of our first element in the observed time. What do I mean? You take 60 plus 60 plus 55 plus 50. You take the sum and you divide it by the average, which is in our case, it's 4. Sometimes it could be 5, 6, 7, or 8, which means we have 8 cycles, or we have 7 cycles, or we have 3 cycles. In this case, we have 4 cycles. So it's 60 plus 60 plus 55 plus 50. All right, let me do it together. 60 plus 60 plus 55 plus 50, which should give you 225. After getting 225, you take 225, you divide it by 4. You should get 56.25. You take 56.25, you divide it by all the first element in all of the cycles that you used. 56 divided by 25, 56.25 divided by 60, which should give you 0.9375. You multiply this answer by 100, it should give you 93.75. But remember the instruction, you round off the number to 94, and that's how you go about getting your rating. You do the same thing for the first element in our second cycle. It was 56.25. You divide it by 60 again. And you get the same answer, which should be 94. We go to our third cycle, the first element, 56.25 divided by 55. You multiply the answer by 100, which should give you 102. And lastly, we take 56.25, you divide by 50, you multiply by 100, which should give you 113. Then you take this number, you multiply it, 94 multiply by 60 for you to get your basic time. 94 times 60, you divide the answer by 100, you should get 56.4. You do the same thing here, 94 should get the same answer, 56.4. And here, what you should do, 102 multiply by 55 divide by 100, which should give you 56 times 1. 0.1, sorry. And lastly here, you take 113 multiply by 50 divide by 100, which should give you 56.5. And that's how you get about finding your basic time. That's how you go about finding your rating, and that's how you go about converting or extracting information from your case study to your observation sheet. I hope it is clear and loud.